So today we're going to show you how we make our Cabernet Sauvignon wine. Hello everyone, this is Dwayne.
And Lori.
And this is Edge of Nowhere Farm. So we have over 180 fruiting trees, vines, and shrubs here on the farm. One of the things we really enjoy growing is grapes. So we have 52 grapevines. Out of those, we got 3 that are dedicated wine grapes. And obviously one of those is Cabernet. We also have Zinfandel. What was the other one?
Syrah.
Syrah. How can I forget Syrah?
I don't know.
That is our favorite. Well, at least it was our favorite until we maybe try this one today.
Yeah.
So what we want to do today is we want to show you what we do to make our Cabernet wine from harvest right on through to what you see in front of us here. One of the reasons why we freeze the grapes, well, 2 reasons primarily. The first one is obviously storage. So these grapes actually were ripened really well for us on 2-year-old vines. And we got basically all of it harvested within a couple of days, which is not always the case. So freezing them gives you the opportunity to harvest over time and store those away. Yeah. The second thing is that also helps to break down the cell wall. So if you don't have a real effective way of crushing the grapes, it actually helps to release the grapes when you get them back into the primary fermenter.
We had 92 pounds
Woo!
of Cabernet grapes.
92 pounds of Cabernet grapes off of 10 vines that are 2 years old. So that means 2 years from now it should be a lot more than that. Hopefully, we'll see. But we started with 92 pounds of grapes. So once you get them separated into the buckets, it's usually a matter of about 24 to 36 hours in our house at least, in order for those grapes to be completely thawed and starting to release actually a good amount of juice. So once those grapes are thawed, it is ready to get them crushed. Now, there's a lot of options when it comes to crushing. Because we're gonna be keeping the skins and everything in this wine, we're not juicing them. We want the skins crushed and we want the grapes crushed. So we just use a stick blender in the buckets to crush up the grapes and add those into the primary fermenter. So for us, because we have 92 pounds of grapes, we need a big old primary fermenter. So we use a trash can. So
clean.
It's clean, yep. You can see through it. It's meant for food. So the first thing we do is we get an initial specific gravity reading. We want to get an idea of how much alcohol or potential alcohol we would have just from our Cabernet grapes. So our initial specific gravity reading, do you remember what that was?
1.064.
Okay, and that equates to, I believe, was just under 9% alcohol. So without any additional sugar, we'd have an alcohol that's just under 9%, which is fantastic, except for us who like it really strong. So we're gonna kick that up a notch.
Yep.
And add some sugar. Now, it's not just straight sugar that we're adding to this, right? What are we adding?
We do a sugar syrup, so water, sugar, 2 to 1.
So it's a 2 to 1 ratio of sugar to water. So not a simple syrup, which I think is 1 to 1. If I'm not mistaken, you're the baker. You would know better than me. But we use some sugar water. That way it actually blends really well for us. And then we take another reading to see if we can get up to the alcohol content we want. And what did we get up to with this one?
We got up to 1.150.
Usually what we're shooting for is somewhere between 16 and 18% alcohol. I think this might have been pushing just above that. And our yeasts that we use are good up to about 18% or so. So it is a nice strong wine. The key with that is if you want to increase the alcohol in the final product, adding sugar at this stage is what you're wanting to do. So one of the things about wine grapes is you generally don't need to add any acid like you would in a fruit wine. However, because of the amount of water that we added to this wine, it diluted it just a little bit too much. So we went back and we added a little bit of acid blend. The key with that is we do use an acid testing strip. So what you're looking for as far as acid is a pH of between 3 and 4 or so for a really good wine, especially for these red wines. So last thing in the primary fermenter would be what?
Sanitizing.
Keeping it clean. So we use a potassium metabisulfite or Camden tablets. Either one will work. So in this case, we let that sit for about 12 to 16 hours or so to let it off gas before we come back and add our next ingredients. So now one of the things when it comes to our wine is we like a wine that completely ferments or attenuates, and so we get as much alcohol out of it as possible. The two types of yeast that are go-to yeast for wines like this would be what?
The Premier Cuvée and the Premier Blanc.
Yes, both Red Star yeasts. We've had very good success with those. Never had a stuck fermentation, knock on wood, but they've been fantastic and they're great yeasts. So in addition, we do add some yeast nutrient. We just want to make sure that even though we think we've got plenty of things for those yeast to munch on, we want to make sure that we're not going to have any issues with fermentation. So we do add some yeast nutrient to the mix as well. We stir that in really well, and that's going to be fermenting for just a few days. So we started with just under 14 gallons of material. So basically our must was just under 14 gallons. Now, once you've started fermentation, after about 24 hours is when we first start to look and punch down the top layer that's on the wine or on the must. You can really start to see the distinction between the wine and the top, which is kind of that cap that forms. You can really start to see that separation between those two. So in 24 hours, we really started to get a nice strong fermentation. We had a nice cap layer that we started to punch down. Usually you punch that down once or twice a day. That's just to make sure that you're not going to get anything on top of that cap, like mold or anything like that. You don't want to have that in your wine, obviously. After 2 days, you really start to see a nice thick cap layer, and you really start to see that separation of the wine, which is at the bottom, and all those bits and pieces that are still left over from the grapes themselves. Now, this is where your red wines get all of their color. It's being in that primary fermenter with the grape skins, and these grapes, actually, they almost look like blueberries.
They did.
They're really, really dark. That skin gives a wonderful red color to the wine, and this is where that red color comes from, is in your primary fermentation with those skins.
So we let it sit in that primary fermentation for about 4 to 5 days.
And at that point, the fermentation starts to slow down a bit, and we get enough color off the skins. We don't want to get any off tastes, and so we want to get basically the wine separated from the rest of the must. So one of the things that you'll see when Lori's doing this process is we are using a wine press. Now, the wine press that we bought, we could not find on Amazon. We did get one that's very, very similar, about the same price as well. And we're gonna have that in our Amazon shop. Now, a wine press is not necessary. In fact, we didn't have any for the first few years of doing wine, and we did just fine. A mesh bag and wringing that out will work just as well. The difference will be the amount of actual wine you get out of the skin. If you're really into this, you're not just testing this out for a one-time shot, I can tell you it's definitely worth the investment. So, in fact, how much wine did you get out of the press from pressing the skins?
I got just under 2 gallons, I think, of wine out of it.
So that's pretty good. Now, putting that through mesh and letting it hang for a bit, you'd probably get maybe half of that. So probably gained us about a gallon of wine by having that press. So again, definitely worth it in my opinion, but not completely necessary. Once you get into the secondary fermenter, is hide it from your friends and family. For us, that means putting it into our wine closet. So we actually put it in the closet. All right, so how much wine did we have when we got that re-racking done, total?
We had just over 8 gallons of wine.
Now we know that because of what? That binder right there. So
yes, this is our winemaking binder.
That's our winemaking binder. We have over, going on 40 batches of wine now, actually.
Yeah.
So we list out all the things that go into the wine, dates, readings where we can, and then we have a section for tasting notes in the end. All right, so you can see one of the fermentation vessels that we have for our secondary here. Now, a couple things on this, you can see that we don't have this particular one completely filled to the top. Part of that is because we want to make sure that as the fermentation continues, it has plenty of space to let the gases escape. You might be able to see this little guy here. This is our airlock. You can see it's functioning just fine, releasing the CO2 that's being released by the yeast that's still consuming sugar here in the secondary fermenter. Now, what you might be able to also pick up on camera, we're starting to get a sediment layer here at the bottom. As the yeast starts to die, it will float to the bottom of the secondary, and eventually you'll wind up having to rack this off of what is called the lees. We usually leave this in the secondary fermenter before that racking for about a month. That usually is enough time for the majority of the fermentation to finish, at least here in our warm house. We're about 78 degrees at any given time here during the summertime, and about a month is all we need. So usually we let the wine sit for about 2 to 3 months before we degas, we back sweeten, and then we go ahead and we bottle the wine. So this is our 2022 Cabernet. Not too dark, and a lot of that's because we water it down a little bit with the sugar water. So probably would be a little bit darker if you used just straight sugar or you didn't actually use any of that. But just a beautiful red color.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go ahead and try this. That is really good.
That is good.
I would say it's medium as far as the sweetness level. So it does definitely have a little bit of sweet. You still get a little bit of the tannic bitterness that you would get really from any red wine. So there's just a little bit of that, but the sweetness definitely balances it good.
But it's not too sweet or anything.
A nice clean finish. Oh, that's really good. Just a little bit of kind of tart and tang. This is gonna age really well.
Yeah.
Really, really well. I mean, it's still a young wine. So it's got another year or two probably before it's really, really good. I don't know if this bottle's gonna last that long.
It's not gonna last that long.
So, hope you guys enjoyed the video today. I enjoyed drinking this wine. It's very good. It's good. I'm glad it's happy hour right now.
Yeah.
So just wanna thank you for joining us today. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel. We cover a lot of things here on this newly established functioning farm, winemaking being one of those, but would love to see you on a regular basis. If you have any questions or comments, those go in the
comment section down below.
And our Amazon shop. That's a free, painless way to help support the channel. If you start with the link down below, it doesn't matter what you buy, you help to support us here, and pretty much everything that you saw us using here today is in that shop for you. So just want to thank you for joining us today and remind you, if we can farm on the edge of nowhere,
so can you.
Wow, you're like, that was quick. Watch your wine.
She's like, wait a minute.
Is there a cork in there? Nope, that has bubbles. It's like we're hiding the hooch.
Kind of are.
Yeah. Oh man.
What? What are you doing?
Transferring that. There we go.
Why'd you want it on me? You always wanted it on you.
No, I always like to focus on you. I'm just the chatty one. So today we're going to be doing probably one of the most my words are getting mingled.
I get you.
So go ahead. What?
Go ahead, what? I'm not going to say it, I don't think.
Wait, what are we going to say?
Well, nothing, because I'm like going like this, and I can sense you looking towards me, so I kept doing this again.
You got mad at me looking at you last time.
I know, that's why I was like, I'm not going to say anything. I didn't get mad at you. It just is awkward to be like.
It's awkward that I look at you. I don't think that it is, but.
I didn't want to say anything.
This year, our grapes, how much were the grapes? How many pounds? We don't have that. I'm gonna go get our handy book here. There we go. Neither one of us have reading glasses. This should be fun.
Oh, great. Put it far enough out. You might be able to read it.
Old people problems. There we go.
92 pounds.
All right, that's the answer. So we actually just use an immersion blender. Is it immersion blender or emulsion blender? Which one is it? It's the stick blender.
We just use a stick blender.
A stick blender. That's got to be a thing. I'm going to call it a stick blender. So what we use in order to crush the grapes is a stick blender. Nobody else will know what that is. It's a blender on a stick.
Alexa, what's another name for a stick blender? Immersion.
Ah, it is a stick blender. Booyah. Alexa, off.
Thank you.
Yeah. You have to be nice to Alexa.
See, you have to be nice to her.
I do not need to be nice to the AI. We all know what happens in the end. The Terminator comes. So for us, because we have 92 pounds of grapes, we need a big old primary fermenter. So we use a trash can. So
clean.
It's clean. Yep. You can see through it. It's meant for food. So we use a large 32-gallon trash can. We have it marked on the outside with lines to show it's not 32 gallons, is it? 30 gallon? It only has 15. I don't know how big this trash can is. It's big though. It holds 100 pounds of grapes. I'm gonna go ahead and stop.
Watch out for baby girl. Make sure you don't step on her. I don't know where she is.
Fresh off the vine, what was our specific gravity reading? Do you recall?
I have to look at the sheet. I don't know.
Everybody goes back. It's 1.06.
1.064.
Do we know how much alcohol that is? Let's get this handy dandy little book. I think it's in the middle. There we go. That is about 8%, just under 9.
Okay.
Okay. Let's try that again. Ready?
You want the book in the picture now?
No, let's get that out of the picture. You want to have somewhere between 3 and 4%, not percent. 3 to 4 is what you want your pH level, not percentage. Let's try that again, Dwight.
Sanitizing.
Keeping it clean. You know you and cleanliness.
Don't even go there.
It's next to godliness. Not in this house. You know, we talked about that last time. It's actually not really true. It's a clutter-free home for the most part.
Oh, it's absolutely clutter-free.
Yeah, just can be dirty.
Yeah.
It won't pass the finger swiping test.
No.
No. So don't bring your white gloves next time you come visit. That's all we're asking.
So we actually let it go for 4 to 5 days, and then we will start taking the material, the must, off of the wine. And
Yeah, I think 4 to 5 days is good, right? How long? You're just.
I can't do it.
It's adorable. I look over at you and your eye, you got these doe eyes.
I was like,
You're like,
please
help.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Okay, good. Just give him a time. Give him an idea of days. We'll just keep it simple.
Okay.
So, how many gallons total did we wind up with out of this batch of wine? You know what? What are you looking at? It's our winemaking book.
Oh.
Go ahead and grab it. I have to give you, I forgot, I didn't tell you. What we're gonna do, I'm gonna say, what are you looking at? You're gonna go, oh, I'm looking at our winemaking book.
Okay.
Can you just look at me with the doe eyes again?
I don't like being on camera.
You're fine. So, how many gallons total did we wind up? Do you remember?
14 gallons.
Yeah, so what are you looking at over there?
I'm looking at our wine book.
Ah, so maybe we ought to show them that. So one of the things with our wines, we've made, how many batches of wine? Over 30 different batches of wine.
Mm-hmm.
We actually go ahead and we actually list everything that we put into the wines. At the end, in fact, we'll be making some notes today. We have tasting notes that we'll put in there for our Cabernet wine from last year, which is what you see here. So we had how many gallons again? Almost 9?
We had 14 gallons.
No, of Cabernet?
Oh, that was the must.
Rack to secondary. See that spot right there? Where there would be a date amount of wine?
So I said the wrong thing because I looked up here and saw 14 gallons.
Yeah, starting over. Let's go and write that down. So, smells good.
I can't smell anything.
Dang COVID. Well, let me just explain it to you.
Okay.
Yep, smells like wine. In case you're wondering. It looks good though. This puts all of our fruit wines to shame.
I know.
Even the mulberry. Because the mulberry is really good, the mulberry is not this good. Let's just sit here and drink on camera.
Okay.
We'll get punchier as it goes.
That's not good.
Happy hour starting early today.
Yeah. People see how bad we are without even having any drinks.
When the drinks happen, it gets more mellow. Wait, no.
Mellow?
I'd say that's probably not true. It gets a little bit more...
Rambunctious?
Yeah, rambunctious is a good way to put it. That's a good way to put it.